Maria, and I work as the creative lead here at Reason Studios. We're so excited that you're with us today. You're going to get some insights behind Reason 13. You're going to meet some of the developers as well as have a sneak peek into marketing. Bye-bye.
So Reason 13 was in many ways a focus on workflow. It's about getting to the sound you want faster, really kind of taking steps away from the process so you can focus on the fun parts, like finding cool sounds and, making the music, and not navigating or choosing options or doing all that boring stuff. Good Reason upgrade has a bunch of things, and of course we wanted some new devices. That's our lifeblood. So Reason 13 includes Polytone, a new synthesizer, Ripley, a brand new delay, and 3 workflow devices: sidechain tool, stereo tool, and gain tool.
First of all, the browser and device palette have now become separate things. So you have the devices always accessible on the left side of the screen and just no fluff around it. While the browser it's much bigger now, much more generous in real estate, and you bring it up and you take it away when you're done with it. The biggest challenge with this was rewriting the browser from scratch, basically, but it was also something that we really needed to do and what we wanted to do, because we wanted a new platform to base future improvements on as well.
So between the new browser and the new sound bank, there's both a bunch of new sounds, but you'll also discover old sounds that could be new for you, just by virtue of them being visible.
This whole categorization started out some time ago, actually, when we still were working with the old browser and had ideas about how to kind of make all content more accessible. So that's something I've been working with for a couple of years at least, or more.
So in terms of the sequencer, like one really big thing that especially Ludwig identified early is that it's quite easy to get lost in any sequencer.
Often didn't really know where you were, because
if you double click something, where do you end up? Where are you now? Because you want to see both the arrangement, the entire song, but you also want to see just a little part. You just want to go in there and kind of tweak something. So we wanted to make sure that the sequencer in Reason 13 made it easy to go between that kind of micro level and the macro level. And there's a lot of tiny details that make a very big difference there.
Basically, the marching orders come from Matthias, sort of, because he has a good idea of what we need, what we should add, what fits in the theme of a Reason update and so on, or which type of device.
So when working on stuff like the sequencer in the browser, it often starts with, the vision for what we need to do. And when I've talked to users and, seen problems or seen them get lost somewhere, and then Ludwig really, he takes that and he keeps kind of refining the design and really making sure that it does work. So he goes out and tests it with people, and I've seen the number just of text documents on his screen is in the hundreds, just with notes and input he gets from everywhere. So I really can't take any credit more than saying like, yeah, it would really be good if we had a new browser or we refreshed the sequencer, and then he really does the hard work together with Andy to kind of make sure, okay, what's the vision for that?
It looks complicated sketch of all the new colors in the new sequencer for dark and light theme, and also how to make new palettes. This is the sequencer, and how to rearrange them with new, we call this love handles, by some secret name from before. And this is the browser.
And then the developers, of course, make it all work and also come with great input. So half of the input we get, of course, is from the community. But half of the input Ludde has to kind of adapt to is like a developer saying, hey, have you thought about this? We could actually do this. And it's,
In our team, we often have we have our different roles. But we're also quite open with the roles, especially when we have the idea. But when we're working together, it's quite openly between us. With if you have a good idea here, we put it here, and I put up some suggestions in how things should look and how it work. And next one is looking at like, oh no, that's good, that's bad, and we have. It's sort of a. Try it out on paper and on sketches, everything. And it's also been like a discussion between the product team and the development team, which I think have been very, very open. So it's really, you are encouraged to influence the work and the progression of Reason, which I think is really good.
When we do rack extensions, particularly synthesizers, it's not unusual that Pelle comes up with something, Peter Jubel. He comes up with something good and maybe has some idea in a certain direction, and that fits into something we want to do, and we kind of combine it and we go for it. My role in this is usually to do functional designs, do wireframes of stuff, and
Since I use Reason when I record music, I'm pretty familiar with it, and it also, it gives me some feedback from what I do myself. Sometimes you come across something that you thought could be done better, and then of course I try to pitch that and see if I can make it on a hack day or get it into the day-to-day work.
The funniest thing with working here is that I can combine my interest in music with work, and that is such a drive. I worked in other places where maybe the product wasn't as sexy as here, and that definitely affects like how I work and how I produce.
I think it's really important to actually do what we feel is right, to actually find our own way, because we're all musicians, we're all music makers, and we're all using Reason all the time, from making, rock albums to live electronic performances.
You don't have to put out music, I guess, but if you don't, I think if you design instruments, you should really make music with instruments. I think I can't say it's essential, because it's probably people done the best instruments has never done music or something like that. But for me, it's sort of the fuel for designing things. I want that. Can we make it? The changes in Reason 13, I think, is a mixture of old wishes from the community and from Reason itself.
I think they do help a lot, in the community. Sometimes I can hear from Michael that works with the social medias, and then he says now this user says this on Instagram, is this really true? And then we have to check that out.
My name is Michael Kellerman, and I am the Artist Relations and Community Manager here at Reason Studios. I do many things here at Reason Studios, as working with our professional users. I also work with building events, putting on shows, club events, mixer events, music festivals. I work with ADE, also with Superbooth in Berlin, and events in Los Angeles and different parts of the world. All about building community with Reason Studios. For me, coming from a background where I was always the odd one out, I didn't really have a supportive community to help me learn about music. I knew nothing about how to start music or get involved in music at all. So I feel if we can create a community that's accepting to anybody that can learn about music creation, for me, I get something quite soulful from being able to create a community and help others learn about music.
Here in our team we're planning everything related to the launch, so setting up briefs for sound content, tutorials.
You might be more used to me talking to you in my studio, like this place.
What types of graphic assets do we need? So much to think about, and a lot to do.
So this is Gustav, the genius behind everything.
So Polytone kind of started with a brief that we wanted. We wanted a very intuitive kind of analog polysynth. Kind of like what monotone is for bass, but for those classic analog poly sounds.
And from that point on, we start thinking and start sketching and discussing. Matthias and I did one mock-up each first. First I did one mock-up, totally different from this. And then Matthias did one totally different from this. And then Pelle did something completely different from that.
But of course, Pelle being Pelle, he had to come up with some new stuff as well. He can't just do run-of-the-mill things. And that's when he introduced the dual layers and the morphing, which I think is great. Just being able to do one sound, another sound, and seamlessly morph between them. Even though they're kind of regular analog synth sounds, it can add a lot of life to everything, so that became the flagship feature. But it's still really easy to use, which I think that was the core thing, like a hands-on classic style synth.
And then I took Pelle's and tried to kind of steer it back a little bit to what we wanted in terms of layout and some parameters and stuff. And then we had this tug of war between what we all wanted. And eventually we brought in a graphic design. This is actually not Andy doing this. This is Erik, an external consultant, Erik Söderberg.
The hardest part of doing things is to make them easy to understand and possible to do a lot.
I think the challenge of making something like Polytone is not necessarily making it, building the features. It's deciding what not to do. It's deciding what's the correct feature set. You can always come up with more features, but a really good instrument has a good balance of features that you understand and that are kind of easy to get to, and that, you know, do something that makes it feel like one instrument and not just a collection of things.
I think it's three joyful stages. First, come up with things. That's quite fun. And the next one is when you feel like, okay, this is the color scheme, this is the idea, we can sort of, it holds together. In the beginning, it's quite hard to get everything, the right measurements and stuff like that. And suddenly, when you have the right objects and the right things, you can move everything around and it works. It's some magic thing in designing things.
So with Ripley, like the big thing is everyone has a delay, and you could have maybe an emulated delay or a very simple delay. We wanted to make a delay that was more of a delay playground, more of a sound design tool where you could actually make the delay sounds you wanted. So we took a lot of time making sure it has a lot of modulation, it has a lot of cool effects, and you can put things in the feedback loop, and we added some really unique filters in there to kind of make a delay that was more creative and fun.
I would say that Ripley is excellent for doing stuff that's modulated and like delays that live a little.
For example, there's a lot of good sounds using Polytone and Ripley. Here I've set up just a bog standard analog sound. It sounds really good, but adding Ripley adds a lot of character. But my favorite thing is probably that you can use freeze. And then modulate is multiply. And then play on top of it.
We actually made up a delay, which was very modular. Yeah. And we could sort of try what we wanted to have in the delay. So it's from a building of building blocks, and then we sort of, okay, this is the building blocks and this is the things we want to use.
Yeah, lots of sketches, and here is the prototype. You also have like prototype is, here is the prototype. Can do it a bit bigger maybe, 140. Bang.
So that's just to try out what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. So I tried different kind of noises, different kind of filters, different kind of how to connect things together, different kind of boxes basically. And it's quite easy to try it out in tracks and stuff like that, because it works like a normal area plug. And this is how it turned out when the selection was done.
Olika sätt att koppla ihop delayet tror jag va? Jag tror det.
So I think in the design process, both Andy, Ludde, and me, and Peter, we all looked at things we liked and disliked with the delays that were out there, like ways of working and specific sounds, and we tried to both come up with new ways of doing it, but also plucking the best part here and there. I think a simple thing from having a very big display that shows you the delay time is something that we're like, yes, that is the most important thing. When I look at my rack, I just want to see, yes, it's a 3/16th note delay. I don't have to think about it. But then we have, handcrafted little parts of the distortion and noise algorithms just because we really like good noise. It took a lot of time just to tweak those just right.
We have this band filter in the feedback loop, which allows you to remove some frequencies totally within the feedback loop, and you can kind of get this like ghost-like, weird, long echoes going. It's just great for sound design. It's going to be great, and we're getting fantastic patches for it as well. So.
Okay, all right, okay, right.
Hello.
Hi.
What's
Hi.
your name?
Hi. Hi. Right.
Oh, for a long time it was Thor because of all the modulation in Thor.
Biscotti?
Yeah, va bene.
Polytone object.
Det är det på i toppen har du
Thor, actually, still after all these years, because you can do anything with it.
The FM synth, the algorithm.
Say right now I'm really happy with Polytone. It's fun.
Polytone and the sequencer is going to be my starting point.
So Polytone, the new device, are you naming that as your all-time favorite Reason?
I could never pick a favorite amongst the children. You can't pick a child.